Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're back with our Bkfc Reddit Ask Me Anything. We're joined by a legend himself, Yari from Instagram. It's Yari513. How you doing, sir?
I am good. I don't know about all the legend stuff, but thank you. I'm all right.
So when I talked to Big Ben, he said you're an integral part of his team, and he said like your help with the nutrition and all that. He said it's like it really helped him. So like I feel like that's got to be a legend because Ben is chasing that title. I feel like Ben's getting the title shot next, but who knows what happens.
First of all, that's a huge compliment. That means the world to me coming from him and his team. I love being over there. Ben is just like, he's just a huge influence to me as a person, as an athlete, as a mentor. He's literally like a mentor to me. So that means a lot. He definitely has to get the title shot and he
Yeah.
deserves it. And I know he's going to take it. He's been waiting his whole life for it. And that guy, I watch him and I see him train and he deserves it.
Okay, so I usually ask questions, and I asked Ben. I said, "Hey, give me something to tell Yari," and he said he doesn't really have a story. He said, "I just always appreciate that he laughs at all the crazy shit I do." And I said, "Well, it's good to have that guy around." So
He definitely does. Ben's one of those funny guys. Like even when he gets mad, he still makes a joke out of it. Like I watched him get mad at I don't want to not his gym members, but people that were coming in
sure.
and they did some things that, he doesn't like and he's warned them before, but even when he gets mad, he's not one of those guys to stay mad. He still makes a joke when it's all said and done and kind of
Yeah.
just changes the mood back.
Okay, so the reason I wanted you on is I know, like I said, we talked supplements. Like how do supplements, like, you always hear like, oh, this guy's on roids and that guy's on roids, and but I mean there's a lot of healthy supplements out there that make you, I mean, like Gaio Duran was talking about how he took like some weight loss supplements, but he took too much. Like supplements are one of those things, if you do too much it can hurt you, but they can also, like, if you take them in the right amount, they can absolutely help you perform better.
Well, first and foremost, you have to have good supplements with a good premium company. You want to make sure that your supplements, if you're a pro fighter, that you don't have to worry about anything that's a banned ingredient to start with.
Sure.
Okay. And that's the first and foremost. And then you also want to make sure that you access your tolerance. Like some say, oh, start with a full scoop. No, start with a half a scoop or maybe a quarter scoop if you're taking like pre-workout. And with the fat burner, same thing. If it says use two, start with one just to know where you're at. And then, give it some time and study some ingredients. People have sensitivity to different things. You don't want to be overdosed on stimulants either. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
also, as a fighter, you don't want to take something that's going to curb your appetite because you need to get your nutrients in the main way from food.
So I mean, I guess without like you can't be like giving out like health advice and stuff, but I mean, what are some like good, like some supplements that would, like you're like an everyday guy like myself, like who doesn't work out a ton, but I mean something that like just give me some kind of boost, like what kind of like suggestions do you have? Like I said, I know you can't like give out medical advice
Yeah.
per se, but
But for like, I do a lot of lifestyle diets. I've helped fighters. The main thing is you always want to have a good source of protein. Okay, you can never go wrong with protein. And when I say good source, you have to find something that is quality ingredients. It's not going to upset your stomach, make you gassy, make you bloaty, just make you uncomfortable. So a good source of protein, everybody and anybody can use that. Any person. A good source of creatine, your body naturally produces creatine. It's going to help with strength. It's going to help recovery, and it just helps all around a general healthy lifestyle. And then glutamine, I would say, is something that's also very important. That's going to help with gut health. It's going to help with recovery. And then, of course, you have like your multivitamins and things to that extent. But as far as supplements, I would say protein, creatine, and glutamine. And everybody and anybody can use that.
okay, so and I mean I guess you're going to be given a promotion, which is fantastic. But what company do you use? Like who do you suggest? Like what's a reputable company? Like I said, I don't know. There's so many websites out there too, and on Instagram. But like some of them are absolutely from China and just repackaging
Right,
stuff. So
right.
give me somebody
So my
good.
company that I'm with is Apollo Nutrition. The cool
Okay.
thing about them, and this what separates them from a lot of other companies, if not most of them, is they actually work with fighters. They have MMA guys, and they have a world champion over there, a 205 world champion. They actually, work with fighters, and they have supplements that are geared towards fighters. And a lot of these companies out there have most of their supplements that are built towards the gym and stuff like that. They have a lot of pump ingredients, and if you're doing combat sports training, a pump ingredient is the last thing you want because it's going to work against you. So you don't want a pump ingredient. Yeah, you may want a little bit of stimulants, you may want a little bit of focus, but you have to find the right one. And the other cool thing is too, the company Apollon that I'm with now, so the two owners and the formulator, they actually train in Muay Thai kickboxing, so they
Oh, nice.
understand. So
Sure.
it helps, and they train it. They train it all the time. They understand the sport. They work with a lot of fighters, and it's important to have that because otherwise you're just guessing. So they formulated a lot of awesome stuff. The pre-workout that I'm taking now is actually Lionheart. I have it right here. Let's give it a quick plug. So this doesn't have any it doesn't have any pump ingredients on there. It's very, very high dosed with endurance and stamina and stuff like that. And I love it. So for combat sports, I use it for sparring. I use it for boxing. I use it for everything that I do.
I feel like if you watch like last night's fights, you see like a perfect
I
example of
watched
like
them.
what. Oh, cardio is like, Kai Stewart, cardio. Like cardio is the key. Like you do see some of the more muscle bound guys, but like a lot of muscle means a lot of oxygen, and you see like
Yep.
that cardio. That's the key.
And that's where the pump ingredients will hurt you because those pump ingredients make you need more oxygen. And,
Sure.
you know, it doesn't help you. Like that pre-workout, it actually helps with endurance. I took it one day on running, and like I just started running. I had to look at my phone. I'm like, oh, I'm 5 miles in. It's time to stop.
Yeah.
And yeah, Kai has awesome endurance. That was just crazy.
Okay, so somebody asked me to the question they sent in was they said ask Yari about the handler and why do you need one?
Oh, okay. That's Nick. The handler, he's my BFF, and he kind of handles everything for me because I become kind of like a space cadet, so to speak, and I don't like
Okay,
dealing with anything. And he's been around me for years. Like, I'll deal with stuff when I have to, but otherwise,
sure.
like, I don't like dealing with anything. Like, we're at the airport, he handles the business. If we're gonna go out to eat somewhere, we're gonna go to a bar somewhere. I'm like, dude, you just handle it. He calls the Uber. He just takes care of everything for me. He's awesome. He's my BFF.
Okay, so I know that you train too. Like do you do boxing? Like what kind of training do you do? Like do you plan on fighting? Do you fight?
So I box. I do fight when I can get a fight. It's been impossible. I'm hurt now. So I've competed in kickboxing. I competed in boxing. I got other goals I want to do. I never did an MMA fight, but I've done plenty of wrestling. I've done grappling. Not very, well versed in jits, but
Yeah.
boxing is the main thing.
How did you get into boxing or combat sports, I guess?
So boxing was always my pure passion, even as a kid, and my grandfather used to do it, and as a kid, like I grew up obviously watching all the action movies, so I just got into boxing. And then
Sure.
people really don't know that about me. Like I did boxing and kickboxing before I got into bodybuilding, and then I competed as a bodybuilder for like 8, 9 years. I got everything I wanted out of it, and then I'm like, you know what? I have unfinished business with boxing, so I went back to boxing, and I think I'm like 3, 4 years back to boxing now.
It's kind of cool. Like I'm good friends with Dr. Sarah Shell, and she does the bodybuilding and she does the Bkfc. And she said like to try to train for one and train the other. She said she doesn't know that she could do both in the same year because it takes such completely different lifestyles, I guess, to be good at both. So
You
she
can't.
does one, she focuses on one, then she switches. Yeah.
Yep. You can never do both at the same time. It's just it doesn't work that way. No way.
Okay, so a lot of people wanted to know about boxing gloves. Like, what's your favorite glove? What ounce weight do you use? And I had no idea that you actually you work with HKA. I saw you post all HKA stuff, and then you're like, I actually work for them. Like, I think that's pretty cool too,
Yeah, I got the HKA hat on. I love their
right?
gear. Obviously, their gear is my favorite gear. I use anything depending on what I'm doing. I have MMA gloves. I have 10-ounce gloves. I have
Yeah.
12-ounce gloves, 14s, and my favorite is 16s because if we're using 16s, that means we're sparring.
Okay.
So, favorite is 16s and definitely HKA.
Okay. Your buddy Demetrius Jordan would like to know what was the pivotal moment that pushed you into the career that you are in now.
Oh, the challenge of it, like It's a challenge, and networking with people and being able to motivate people and being able to make a difference in someone's life. That's what kind of did it.
Okay. Okay, I'm going through some of your questions. One
Yeah,
of
that's
these
fine.
people wanted to know what's the biggest challenge switching from physique sports to boxing?
Oh, first things first is you got to cut down that muscle. Like the muscle worked against me. I was up to 248 pounds at one point, and I used to eat 9 times a day, heavy protein, heavy protein. So trying to make that the body more of an athlete, that was the hardest part, and that's something that I'm constantly working on. I'm not saying I'm muscle bound or something, but
Sure.
I do have a lot of useless muscle on me that doesn't help for combat sports. That's definitely the hardest part.
It is it's kind of funny because like when you hang around a bunch of the MMA guys and you get the new guy shows up at the gym and he is like the bodybuilder type and you're going like, okay, those are gym muscles. You're gonna find out pretty soon. Like, I mean, yeah, you look great in a t-shirt, but then you end up burning so much energy and like,
Yep.
like you do have to lean out a little bit. And
Yeah, you have to make that muscle more conditioned and more endurance. And for me, it's an ongoing process to this very day. Like I bust my ass with the cardio, I do high volume training when I'm in the boxing gym. I run every morning. And even when I weight train now, which is 1 day a week of strength conditioning, it's at more of a rapid pace, like I'm not in the gym like, oh, I want to get a pump. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not my focus.
okay, and it seemed like you had a lot of questions that were based on like, can you tell us like what your week looks like working out? So could you guys
Cool.
could you could you kind of tell us about like what a week of training for Yari looks like?
Yeah, so Monday through Thursdays is double. Every Monday
Okay.
morning or every morning is running, and then I do core work, and then back to the gym at nighttime, and it's boxing. If I got something coming up, I'll be at Rothwell's on Tuesday for sparring. Otherwise, I'll be at my gym, and I'll have my trainer 3 times a week. Friday, if I want to get crazy, I'll do some extra sparring. I don't do any cardio on Friday morning. Every Saturday, I'm at Rothwell Gym for sparring, and then Sundays, depending how bad I'm beat up, either I'm doing nothing or it's a little bit of active recovery, which is like a walk or a very light jog. But I'm pretty active, usually
Yeah.
6 days a week.
It's so funny because I'll wake up and I'm getting ready and I check Instagram and you've already ran and I'm like, well, I just had breakfast and he's running. So
People say that all the time. They're like, how is it that you're so jolly and ready to go and I'm just trying to get myself together? And I'm like, I don't wake up with the attitude of, man, I got to go run. Like I wake up like, yeah, I'm going to go run. I like it.
can you tell us how you get that positive mindset? Because like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, I got to do this. And I was like, when I was fighting, I was one of those guys that hated it. I love sparring and I love training, but running was like the road work was the worst for me. But how do you keep that mental, attitude and that positive energy?
So honestly, that motivation for me is my gift and my curse because that's all I want to do is train. Like I base my life around it, which is not very good. If I know I have a family function coming up, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm going to sign out of work early or take a half day so I get my training in. You know what I mean? Like I refuse to miss training. So I'm just always been motivated and I just want more for myself. And like I have like this obsession. That's what I've been told from people that know me, and I can't turn it off. I just can't,
sure.
and I don't want to.
What age did you get your first tattoo?
Oh, 16?
Yeah,
16? Yeah.
they're addicting, right? Like it's crazy. Like you get one and then you just start itching. I need another one. I need another one.
hmm The first one was on my arm. I can't remember my right arm, and it
Okay,
was just an initial of a Y. And then I would look at it and be like, it doesn't look right. So I added more to it. And then you're looking at the other arm. You're like, okay, now I need something here. And then you're done.
right.
It just got you then.
Yeah. Okay, Cell Shot Nutrition would like to know how impactful are your opponent's strengths and weaknesses for your own fight style strategy going in?
So on an amateur division, you don't know
Okay,
anything.
sure.
You don't know who you're fighting. You don't know who you're fighting till you get there. And some of the times the opponent doesn't even show up. So
Yeah,
my strategy is to fight my fight and do what I do, never about what the other guy might do because you don't know who it is. And it's not like you're going to go study film on him. Maybe you
sure.
get his name and then you can pull up something on social media if you see him, maybe, but it's slim. So in the amateur world, you don't really know for the most part.
The thing that sucks about amateur too is like a lot of times you get some slime ball promoters, and they'll be like, "Oh, this guy's a bum," and then you fight, and this guy's phenomenal, and you talk to him, and you're like, "Oh, I just talked to this guy. He said you have no experience," and the guy's like, "Oh, I've done 20 amateur fights," and you're like, "What the hell?" Like that was my experience when I first started out. Like like the promoters would be like, "Oh no, this guy's 0-1," and you're like, "Okay, yeah, 0-1 pro." But he's had like a shitload of amateur experience. Like it's hard,
Yep.
especially when you're an amateur.
I've been through that too. I've
Yeah,
definitely been through that where they're like, "Oh, this guy hasn't fought, you know, ever," but yeah, he's been training for 10 years.
right, absolutely. So you were out at Knucklemania. It looked like you had a fantastic time. Like what was traveling out there for Knucklemania like? It was unfortunate that Ben like absolutely destroyed his opponent so quickly, but I mean like it looked like it was a fun time overall though.
Oh, I had a great time. I enjoy going to Ben's fights. I was at the one in Colorado too. That's the first one that I went to. And then I
Okay,
went to the one in Utah. Unfortunately, he got sick, but I love the BKFCs. To me, like I always tell my friends, I'm like, once you go to a live BKFC event, it'll change your life forever. And that's
absolutely.
no knock against any other sport. It's just the crowd is so livid. The energy is there. Like you hear the cracking of the face, and I love it. I just love the environment. The fighters are all awesome. Everybody I met has always been so, super humble to me, and I love it.
So I knew that they were going to be introducing Detroit or around Detroit, somewhere in Michigan. I knew that, but then when I was talking to Chris, and he said, "Oh yeah, it looks like we're going to be doing Wisconsin pretty soon, like down by Milwaukee, which is fantastic for you." I cannot wait for BKFC to come to Wisconsin.
Yeah, that would be huge, and hopefully Ben's involved somehow, some way. He can
You
definitely
got
draw a
to,
crowd there.
yeah, absolutely.
I'll definitely
How
be there.
how did you like get to team up with Ben?
So I was with the previous supplement company. I mean, I've
Okay,
always known who he was when he fought in the UFC,
sure,
and been a fan of Ben. And I was with the previous supplement company, and then all of a sudden Ben popped back up on media, and I'm like, you know what? This guy's close to me. Let me reach out.
yeah,
And I reached out, and he put me in contact with his manager. Long story short is Ben contacted me personally. He's like, let's talk personally if you don't mind. And I was like, yeah, for sure. In the back of my mind, I'm kind of a fanboy, you know?
sure.
And I was like, oh man, I'm talking to Ben Rothwell, And we just clicked. We just got along really well. Instantly. Like it was instant.
So I was talking to Ben yesterday, and we're both kind of nerds. He's like, I was at a Renaissance festival setting up. He's like, oh, he's admitted that he's an open nerd. Like, are
Hmm.
you a nerd? Is there anything nerdy about Yari? You look scary, so you don't look nerdy. But is there anything nerdy
Well,
about you?
I don't know the definition of a nerd. I wouldn't call Ben a nerd. I mean, does playing video games make you a nerd? I don't know.
Right.
I'm like, I might be a nerd because all I want to do is work out. So to somebody, that could be nerdy.
Sure.
But and at the same time, I'm also very simple: work out, food, and watch movies. Like that's what makes me happy. Obviously, be my family, but that's a given. That doesn't, you know what I mean?
Sure. What was the last good movie you watched?
The last good movie that I watched, Bad Boys 4, that was awesome.
That's right. You were saying it was fantastic. I
Yeah,
told my wife. I said Yari said it's great. We got to go watch it. So
it was great. Everybody that I know that watched it said the same thing. Biker Boys is next.
okay, yeah, that looks good too. Like I'm a huge Tom Hardy fan. Like I think that guy's such a phenomenal actor. So okay, so we saw Kai last night. Kai said he'd never been in a street fight before. Like you have an intimidating look. Have you ever been in a street fight? That's usually the last question I ask people. Do you remember your first street fight? The first time you hit somebody out of anger? It's usually back when you were in grade school or something. But some of the people are older. Like, do you remember your first fight?
I don't remember my first one, but all I can tell you is that I've been in a lot of them. When I say a lot, it's a lot. I've been jumped multiple times. I've been through it all.
So
I
going,
couldn't remember the first one.
I hate to keep going back to Ben, but he kind of
No,
said
that's fine.
he was a big, tall, intimidating guy back in the day, so everybody wanted to try him.
Yep.
You are a very intimidating looking guy, so is that kind of the same thing? Like everybody's like, "Oh, this muscle guy, I want to try him," or
This is no ego or anything. This is kind of weird for me to say it. I didn't like have size to me. I was actually picked on,
okay,
and as a kid, like even through high school, I was picked on. People would bully me. I was a skinny kid. I was anywhere from like 140 to 160 pounds, and I just thought that I can street fight, and I became pretty good at it, and I stood up for myself no matter what. But
okay.
I was not. I had no intimidation to me whatsoever. I
Oh,
was not intimidating. Not saying that I am now, but I definitely wasn't then.
So when did you start, the bodybuilding and transforming? Were you sick of being picked on, so you join a gym, or like how did that come about?
So again, I always had love for mixed martial arts. I used to go to a huge MMA gym that's out by me. I did boxing with them. I did MMA with them, and I kept getting hurt. I kept getting hurt, and like it seemed like there was a lot of politics involved, and I couldn't get anything right. And I finally decided, I'm like, you know what? Let me try bodybuilding.
Okay.
And because I've always walked growing up, I like Dorian Yates and Arnold and stuff like that. I'm like, let me try it. And then I got addicted to the challenge of it because it was so hard as far as like the diet aspect, you know?
Right.
And the challenge is what got to me for the bodybuilding.
Cool. All right. So that's all the questions I have. Is there any like sponsors or shout outs or anything you'd like to promote before we call it a day?
Well, I definitely want to give a shout out to Apollo Nutrition. Thank you guys taking a chance in me. Shout out to HKA, of course. Shout out to Rothwell MMA. We'll give a shout out to Cell Shot Nutrition. Shout out to Swole House Meals. To any of you fighters out there who are struggling to get your meals in and don't have time, which I completely understand, check out Swole House Meals. They actually work with a lot of fighters. They do a lot of stuff in the East Coast, but they ship everywhere. They promote fights. They sponsor fights. They sponsor fighters, so they definitely got your back as well. And again, Apollo Nutrition makes supplements for fighters specifically. So
Awesome.
check them out, you know. Thanks for having me on, man. I totally appreciate it.
Of course, yeah, and I'll be sure to include a link to all your social media, and then people can follow your links to all those sponsors too. So,
Yeah, that'll be cool, man.
well, I look forward to bumping you in a fight pretty soon. It'll be a fun time.
Most definitely. It'll be awesome.
Have a great day, sir. Thank you.
Take it easy, man.